Hello everyone and welcome to Real PR with me, Fiona Scott. I hope you're having a good day and a good week and a good month. Today I've got a lovely guest joining me. This is a young man who reached out to me and asked if he could be on my podcast. And of course, reading his profile on LinkedIn, I thought, yeah, I want this guy on the podcast. And this is the first time I've met him, as you are meeting him now. So in a moment, I'm going to let him introduce himself. So let's get into it.
Hi Fiona, thanks for asking me on. It's a pleasure to meet you. So as you can tell from my accent, I'm from Scotland. I'm a disability campaigner, but also I'm a freelance journalist. So in the past, I've worked for BBC, STV, and I've wrote for a lot of publications as well about disability issues, but also about non-disability issues as well.
So let's talk about, why do you write about disability, Michael? What's your motivation for that?
I think it goes back to when I was younger, Fiona. There wasn't a lot said about disability. Well, there was a lot said about disability, but there wasn't anybody in the news with a disability talking about disability issues. You know, that kind of real life lived experience as well. But also on top of that, when I was younger, I wanted to get into the media. But obviously, when you're younger, you don't know what you want to do in terms of like TV, radio, writing, or doing this with you today. So I suppose I've got to a level where I want to be at, kind of speaking about disability issues, but also speaking as a journalist as well.
I don't know if you're aware, Michael, but I work with two clients who have very clear disabilities. I believe there are visible and invisible disabilities. So one's visually impaired and one's a wheelchair user. Do you mind me asking, do you have a disability?
Yeah, so I have cerebral palsy.
And how does that affect you in daily life, if at all?
I think go back years ago, when I was at school, I had to learn how to walk and how to learn how to talk. I suppose that you can get different levels of cerebral palsy, but yeah, it affects people in kind of like different ways.
Okay, and what are for you, spell out what the issues are today. I mean, some people might think all in the disability garden is rosy, things are okay, things are equal, but I'm guessing they absolutely aren't, or at least they're not as far as I see it.
Yeah, I suppose I would love me to say, yeah, you're right, Fiona, but it's totally maybe the opposite from that. Even though it's getting slightly better, but we're not there yet in terms of one example is like the employment market. And I know a lot of people with a disability that wants to work, that's been, to university and got a degree in media and all the rest of it. When it goes to the interview stage, that's when a lot of people with a disability just falls short. But however, that's mostly up to the employer. Employers have still got this kind of big issue, and it's a big bugbear of mine, feeling about we should actually see the person, not the disability. But and you would like to say that in today's society, but sadly, a lot of people still see that person in a wheelchair or with a Zimmer instead of Michael behind that kind of like disability. And I've always said as well that disability is on that label. Society puts us in boxes, and I don't like that when people does it, especially employers. Yeah, in terms of like accessible housing, accessible transport, and yeah, there's a lot of things that I could speak about. Yeah, but I mean it is getting slightly better, but we're not just there yet.
I mean, is self-employment an option that people with disabilities feel they have to take. I don't know, it might be to work around health conditions, or I think of the two people I work with, and they're both self-employed and they're quite busy, which is a really good thing. But there are day-to-day, what I call micro discriminations in day, silly stuff that I wouldn't think of because I don't have a disability. Things like, I don't know if you have them, Mike, when you're out and about, trying to put petrol in the car if you're a wheelchair user. That's just a really simple thing. And other things like, I'm just thinking of things that Lou has. Louise. So Louise, one of my clients, she's often a guest speaker. She can be the celebrity in the room, needs to use the bathroom. It's full of rubbish. She can't access the toilet. And so you go from these extremes to another. I mean, have you ever encountered things like that yourself personally, Michael?
Not personally, but I have heard stories before, like in terms of like different restaurants in Glasgow that people wanted to go to the toilet. But as you were saying, that's that's a common one, Fiona, when people go to the toilet, but also they can't really get into the toilet because they use that as a storeroom for, you know, like holding toilet rolls or you know, different things as well. I've also came across when I was out with one of my mates a few years ago. Like, so he drives a van from his wheelchair, but he can't get out to put petrol on it because his mobility is not that good. So he's actually got to rely on a person, an honest person, could come out from the shop to pay his money, could come back out the shop to give him the change back. Now that could be a bit dodgy, and because you don't know what kind of people it's about and you know stuff like that. So, and in terms of like your answer to people not getting a job but having a qualification, I have known a few people to do that, like went self-employed in terms of this. One of my other mates is a landscape gardener, and he went to university for that, but he never got a job. So he was sick of going for maybe, let's say, 10 interviews and not getting any. So he's actually set up his own business now. He works from home. So at the back of his house, he's got a workshop, and that's where he does all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, in a way it's good, but in a way it's bad because people have got to go to all that effort. But in a different breath, it makes it people to do that because of the health conditions or whatever. They can only work maybe a couple hours a week, and then after that they can get tired. Numerous kind of disabilities as well. So yeah, that could work, and also because of working from home, that makes it people in terms of like they don't have to phone ahead and say, have you got an accessible toilet? Have you got a kitchen that I can come into for a cup of tea and whatever? Whereas everything's in the house and you know where kind of like everything is.
Yeah, I must admit, I hadn't thought about that, but I guess, people, lots of people do have to think they have to break their day down into micro steps
Yeah.
to access things or to find out if there is access. When you do writing or talking, I noticed on your LinkedIn that you give talks. What type of things do you talk about, Michael?
So I haven't really done that for a while, but I'm still open to offers.
Hint, hint.
So yeah, I used to work for a kind of charity in Scotland called the Scottish Consortium for Learning Disabilities, and I'm going back about 6 years now or something like that. And they got what they got was they got funding from the Scottish government to employ one person with a disability to go around Scotland to speak about the everything that I've kind of spoke to you about there, about the challenges that people faces in the day-to-day basis, but also kind of like speak about their own personal journey as well into employment. So I'd done that for about 4 years, obviously because it's funding, it can't last forever. But I kind of enjoyed that because, and it helped my confidence as well because I didn't have the confidence to speak in front of different people. So the job spec was to employ one person with a disability. They ended up employing four people with a disability because each person had like a different story to tell. When you spoke about going to school, going to college, but also people telling me what to do instead of leaving up to me what I want to do. So I done that. So I really loved that, and it gave me a lot of confidence, and I made a lot of friendships through my kind of work as well. And I suppose that's when it all started for me in terms of going up like the employment ladder.
Just give us a brief summary then, Michael, of what your career journey was, say from school to where you are now. I have no idea how old you are, Michael, so I guess I should start asking you how old you are.
So I'm 41. So it started all these years ago when I went to school, and I went to a disability primary school and a high school in Glasgow as well. So I went in a taxi to my school because where I was staying at that time, it was maybe about half an hour away from my house, and like they were picking up different people. So anyway, so that was fine, and then I went on to high school. I was there for 6 years, and that was a disability school. People call it a special needs school, but as I say, what's special about a school? That was okay in a way, but when I got older, I found that wasn't for me. I went to school, and then one day a week I went to college just to as a kind of like task assessing. So I went there once a week. However, so I'll fast forward a wee bit, and then doing prospects for 2 years. Now, prospects, for anybody that's listening or watching, they might know, they might not know what it is. So prospects is like going, basically, like it's going back to school again and doing like maths, English, how to cook, how to, so it's a lifestyle course. But after the 2 years, sadly, there wasn't any qualification for me then, but that wasn't going to guarantee a job. So I went there for 2 years, and then, halfway through my second year, I don't know if people knows this, but when you go to a college like that, you have a meeting with like, your tutors, your mum and dad, your social worker. No, I said to my mum and dad, I'm not happy with what I'm doing. And obviously, because your mum and dad, they want to know why. So I gave them like the reason, and they were very supportive of me. So what I done, Fiona, was I went on to apply for. I wanted to think of a kind of media course, but they wasn't doing any media at the college. So I went on to do business admin, computers. So I done that, and I got on the course. I went for an interview. I got on the course, and everything was brilliant. However, when I went to my review meeting, um, at that time they were saying, "Well, so what are you doing next year, Michael? When you leave here?" And I said to them, "Well, I've just been accepted for this course. It was a mainstream course, and you could see the look on their face as if to say, why why did you do that for?" Obviously they never came out and said it, but but they never said to me, "Oh, well done, good luck," and all that. So, but that was a waste of 2 years doing a life skill course. and then I went on to do business admin. So I was quite pleased about, and I got a real qualification then. So that was good. That was a bit of a long story, Fiona.
No,
Sorry, but
no, that's
uh,
all right. So you've got
yeah,
your business admin qualification.
yeah.
How did you get your first taste of the real media then, Michael?
So I suppose that the way that I can describe it as DIY, do it myself. Like I done back up here in Scotland, we've got a hospital radio, so I volunteered, and yeah, so I volunteered there for like 8 years, and it was brilliant. Uh, I went round the wards asking patients for like requests and all that, and then I brought them back to the studio, and then I got them the presenter to play the music, and then from then I've just went on to like community radio and all that, trying to build my experience up to where I'm basically today.
Um, I just think that that's quite a normal route for anyone wanting to get into the media, regardless of whether they have a disability or not. I did hospital radio like you as well for two
Mm.
years, and exactly the same. Went round the wards, collected things, and then had to learn to use all the kit, which wasn't that easy actually. So I did the same as you. Community radio here in Swindon, where I am, we have a really active community radio, and I support them. I'm one of their ambassadors. Firmly believe not only is it a really good resource for the community, but it provides opportunities for people from all walks of life to try the media, to try
Mhm.
storytelling. Why do you think you like storytelling, Michael?
I'm 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 not sure. I've always been into, like storytelling, but I'm also interested in meeting new people, like for yourself. And I've done different podcasting over the years. I present a podcast, but also go on podcasts as well. And I think I'm a very kind of like people person in terms of like, oh, so what do you do? Who's involved and all that? And but now it's like I'm trying to make like a kind of like story, and whether it gets commissioned or not, it's a different. That's a different ball game because commission's very kind of difficult. I've been lucky in a way that I've had like two documentaries commissioned as well. But I think I'm a very kind of outgoing person, and like I always like to help people, but I also want to listen to people, and yeah, I've always been into that kind of stuff, even before I got into to the media, and I knew I knew when I was. I know this is easy for me to say this now, but when I was younger, I kind of knew what I wanted to do, but I had to go about it in a kind of weird way to where I am today. Weird as in, oh no, you can't do that, Michael. And I'm sure that's a common thing for
I think it is.
a lot of people.
I you won't know this, but I'm writing a book about how I got into being a journalist. And
All right.
but I think if you come from a background where nobody in your family's ever done anything like that, you don't have any contacts, you're like flailing around as to what to do. Plus, you then add in the extra ingredient of having a disability.
Mm.
You must be a problem solver. You find your way around things and you get there in the end. There is no direct route. Would that be
I
right?
think, yeah, I think like disability or not, but like I'm sure like if somebody said to you, Fiona, you can't do that, I'm sure you'll say to yourself, well, I'm going to prove them wrong. That like, and I suppose like everybody's different. I know that, but like when people says to me no, I obviously I get a bad no, I swear and stuff like that, but I also say, well, you know, I'm going to prove you wrong too, and I might take a bit longer to do it, but I will do it in a kind of way. So I think you need that kind of determination as well, and the right support. behind you in terms of like my mum, my dad, and my family and all that. But most of that's got to come from you, Fiona. People can't. They can say things to you, but they can't do it for you. If you know
No.
what I mean.
No, I totally agree. You need a support, everyone needs a support system around them, regardless of
Yeah.
who they are. But equally, that inner passion is the thing that gets you going. I always say this, it doesn't keep you going on the good days, it keeps you going on the days that aren't good.
No, because I'm sure you've experienced this. I mean, I've experienced this quite a few times, just because I'm freelance as well, because you don't know what I'm doing tomorrow or you don't know what you're doing next week. But you could be so busy in one day and then, that's it for the until the next game. So there's kind of up and down, Fiona. But that's the that's the joys of being kind of like self-employed. But I love it. But sometimes it can be a bit kind of, and some days are longer than other days. Just depends what you've got on, I suppose.
Yeah, I think that in our world of self-employment plus self-employment in the media, if you think it's all going to be 9 to 5, you are sadly mistaken.
Yep, yep. No, yeah, you can work at funny hours. In fact, people have actually told me before that, Michael, why do you send emails at 10:30 at night? You know, but that's just the way I am. However, some other people can be really annoyed. Well, not really annoyed, but some kind of bit, yeah, annoyed without me swearing there. Oh, I was in my bed and I got email from you at 12:30 at night. And don't send me emails then. But yeah,
No, I think the way we communicate now, as to when I'm a lot older than you, um, we have so many different ways of communicating. You might be a night owl, I'm an early bird. It doesn't bother me if someone emails me at 10:30 at night, but I might not answer
yeah, yeah.
until the next day. And most reasonable people would not get angry about me not answering just because they've sent me an email at 10:30 at night. But you did, Matt, I picked up on the fact that you said you made some documentaries. So tell us
Mm.
what were they about, Michael?
I hate to mention this word now because people is trying to forget COVID and lockdown and all that. But I done a documentary during lockdown, and it was based on the Tokyo Paralympic Games. And the idea for me was to do this documentary, but don't focus on, oh, look at that disabled person winning the medal. It wasn't about that. It was really about what they can achieve. So it was very weird actually, because as I'm speaking to you today, this was the way I done my documentary. So I was working with a producer. He was based up in Inverness. Obviously, because of lockdown, he couldn't come down. So he was based from his house up in Inverness. I was based here, and everybody was kind of like, I interviewed Sammy Kinghorn and Ruby Clegg, and they were based in England and parts of Scotland, and that was a bit weird. And then last 2 years ago, uh, 2 years ago, I'd done a documentary because I became 40, a big 4. So I pitched an idea to the BBC about doing a documentary about what was it like for people with a disability 40 years ago compared to the now. So like I interviewed my mum and dad, and listening to my mum and dad about me, it made me feel a bit upset, some of the things that they were saying as well. So I interviewed Graham and I interviewed a few other people from kind of like Glasgow City Council to do with employment and education. And I spoke to a few other of my one of my friends used to go to school with me. He's a journalist and he worked for the BBC. So I wanted to get his perspective of journalism now compared to back then. So yeah, I'm quite lucky in a way to have like to commissioning stuff being on the radio, but I've did a lot of reporting on kind of like TV as well. But yeah, documentaries, that was, yeah, I was right proud of myself to do that. But I'm not one of these guys where like people say, "Oh no, it's Michael getting on TV and radio." It's not about that for me. A, I love doing it, but B, it's about other people as well, because other people with a disability experience that, but they haven't got a voice to put it across, basically. So yeah, yeah, that's me.
Well, I think you're a bit of a hero, actually. And I think there need to be more voices. I work with Louise and Chris. I've learned a lot from working with people day to day with different types of disabilities. And I think that anyone that can deal with the world of the media and when they've got that added other thing is astonishing. We've come to the end of our time, Michael. It's gone so quickly. So I'm probably going to invite you back on at another time if that's all right with you.
Yep, no
Um,
bother.
but if anyone listening or watching this today would like to find you, how can they find you, Michael, and contact you?
Yeah, so if you visit all my kind of social media, kind of Facebook, X, LinkedIn, just look for Michael McEwan. But also I've got a website called michaelmckewanmedia.com, where you can find out all my media work, as I say, my documentaries, and a news piece that I did about Lennox Castle. And Lennox Castle used to be a kind of institution for people with a disability, that basically their families gave them up when they were younger. So yeah, I mean, you can nip over to my website and you can see more of my work.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Michael. I really hope you've enjoyed today's conversation with Michael. I've got to know him as you've got to know him. You can go off and find him and have a chat with him if you want to, build a relationship with him. If you want to find me, I'm at scotmedia.uk. I'm on Facebook, or Fiona Scott's PR Tribe, which is a free group that you can join. Just mention this podcast, or I'm on LinkedIn. And that's it for today. See you again soon.